Hello and welcome back to Afterglow episode 103. As I'm sure you read from the title, in this episode I'm going to be talking about Double Dragon for the NES specifically. I don't have a lot of experience with the arcade version. As a matter of fact, I've only emulated it a little bit and that's been it. So most of my experience with Double Dragon comes from the original NES release, although I never actually owned it until much later on. So my early experience was limited, but it really hit some formulative memories for me, which I'm going to be talking about in this episode. But before we do that, as always, I want to enjoy some music for the game. So let's listen to some music from Double Dragon. And welcome back. So my first experience with Double Dragon was at a buddy's house. We were sitting up there and I didn't spend too much time with this guy. Me and him actually got along really well, but we kind of lived enough to where it took a drive to be able to visit each other, so we didn't actually get to hang out often. But he happened to have a copy of Double Dragon that we were playing, and I'll be honest, the entire time we were there, we mostly played it in two-player versus mode. Because if I remember right, this game did not have two-player co-op. You only had the versus mode, which you could pick between Billy, Jimmy, or I want to say two or three of the boss characters. I think Bobo was one of them. But we spent most of the night just beating the crap out of each other. And I do want to stress that this game came out before your standard fighting game came out. Like, Street Fighter 2 was like, it formed the nucleus of what makes a good fighter game, in my opinion. Maybe something came out before that I'm not aware of, but to me, like, the blueprint was Street Fighter 2. I mean, Street Fighter 1 was kind of close-ish, but man, nothing beats Street Fighter 2. But going back to it, this performed kind of like a fighting game did, which I'd never seen before. And again, we just had a blast picking characters and beating the crap out of each other in the game. It was really, really fun. So, because I had so much fun with the game down the road, I rented it. And, of course, whenever I rented it, I didn't have a buddy to play with, so I explored the single-player mode. And this was my first experience with a beat-em-up. Now, the game that got me to fall in love with beat-em-ups was Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles 2, the arcade game. But I had a lot of fun with this one, too. This one was difficult, although it was also rather short. I didn't beat it the first time I rented it, but I wanted to say after 2 or 3 rentals I was able to beat it. One thing that did confuse me a bit, and it's funny, but the experience system in this game confused the heck out of me. And you would think, as someone who grew up playing Dragon Warrior and Final Fantasy, I would understand an experience system. Nope, didn't get it in this game. But more or less, every enemy you beat gives you some experience. And your character levels up, and when he levels up, it affects what attacks you have. I didn't get this at all as a kid. I would get really confused why later in the game I could do like a hair grab or a knee bash, when early on I couldn't do it. So speaking of those, let's go over the experience system in the game. Certain moves give certain amounts of experience, and then Whenever you get 1,000 points of experience, you gain a heart. You get another 1,000, you get another heart. And with each heart you have, it depends what moves you can do. If you get 1 heart, you get a punch, you get a kick, you get a jump, and you get a headbutt. The headbutt is a double tap, more or less, left or right. If you get 2 hearts, stuff changes a little bit. You get an uppercut or a high kick, and those can be done if your opponent's stunned. With 3 hearts, you finally be able to get a jump kick. Well, you hit A plus B, and instead of jumping, you do a jump kick. It's so weird to play a fighting game where you can't do a jump kick at the beginning. But at 3 hearts, you get a jump kick. But after you get your jump kick, you can't only do a jump. You only do a jump with 1 or 2 hearts. At 3 hearts, you only do the jump kick. You want to have 3 hearts. You want that jump kick. It's very, very important. At 4 hearts, you get a knee move, the ability to throw someone over your shoulder, or you get a grab attack, but you can't do the grab attack to a Bobo. Then at 5 hearts, you get a mount, more or less, where you can mount an opponent and then start punching them repeatedly. And you'll also get the straddle. At 6 hearts, you get an elbow punch, which is kind of like a back attack. And then finally, at 7 hearts, which is the most you can get, that's when you unlock the spin kick. So the spin kick is known in Double Dragon games as the ultimate attack, and you can more or less do it from the very beginning in Double Dragon 2 and 3, but in the first game, at least on the NES, you had to grind up to it. But while we're talking about attacks, you can also get weapons from enemies. Occasionally they'll drop a knife, they'll drop a bat, they'll drop a whip. There's even dynamite at points. You'll find crates and barrels, and even a boulder at one point, which you can pick up and throw at your opponents. And I was kind of shocked to see Billy Lee or Jimmy, whichever one I played as, just hurl up that boulder with no problem and chuck it at a bad guy. The one thing about the weapons, though, is that if you defeat all of the enemies on the screen at that moment, you lose your weapon. It just disappears, so it's kind of a bummer. But I kind of understand, because the weapons do affect your reach a little bit. I do like what later games did, where they give, like, your weapon more or less a health meter. But I do understand why they did that. So that's more or less your attacks and what you do. As far as gameplay-wise, you get Billy and Jimmy. Those are your 2 brothers. Again, no co-op in this game. Although in the arcade, there was co-op. And I hope I'm not spoiling anything for like a 30-year-old game at this point. But if you are playing co-op in the arcade and you beat the game, you have to face off with your opponent, and then whoever wins gets the heart of the girl in the game, who is Marion. So, it's kind of a cool thing. On the other hand, you'd think the brothers would just unite, yay, we saved her, whatever, but no, you gotta kick the crap out of your own brother. It's so weird. So as far as the game itself, again, very, very short. There's only like 4 or 5 levels. You start out, like, in town, and then you'll move on to almost what looks like a factory, warehouse sort of deal. Then you'll fight through a jungle or swamp-looking area. And then you more or less finally move on to the bad guy's lair, and then you go inside the lair. And then finally you'll fight the final boss in there, and I forgot to bring him up. The final boss is named Willie. Willie's a dirty cheater, because he brings a machine gun to the fight. I mean, I tried to bring a knife to a gunfight, but I couldn't even do that because the game took away my knife. And Willie just comes walking on out with a machine gun and just starts spamming the area with lead. I'll tell you what, that sucks. Later on, in other fighting games, you kind of got used to it. Like in Final Fight, I think the main bad guy in that one had like a spear gun or something that he came at you with. But whenever I was a kid, I thought that people coming at me with bats and knives and whips was no fair. Then, homeboy Willie, he comes popping out of the corner with a machine gun. It's like, are you kidding me? But I did manage to beat this game on the second or third rental. Thankfully, it's because it was short. Pulling up a quick list here real quick, I do want to go back to the PvP thing because there was no co-op. Billy is one of them. There's also Jimmy, Will, Roper, Abobo, Linda, and Chin. So, interestingly enough, Abobo, he's like a bad guy that's continually coming at you in later games. Chin is kind of an interesting one because he's a boss in Double Dragon 3, but then you end up playing as him. He like joins your party or something in Double Dragon 3, so that's kind of interesting for a later time. It's pretty well it for co-op though. But yeah, overall, as a kid, I liked this game. That was definitely a rental. It was one of them to where I would rent it every once in a great while after I beat it, and I'd enjoy it for a few hours, and I'd go back to other stuff. Honestly, didn't even mess with emulating it a whole lot. I did repurchase it later on, and same as always, I'd play it for a few hours, get my enjoyment out of it. Learned how to beat it again, because of course after repurchasing it as an adult, I couldn't beat it the first time, but after a little bit of practice, again, no problem, could run through it. It's an enjoyable game. It was grossly overshadowed by Double Dragon 2. And then Double Dragon 3 is more or less the car wreck of the series, but that's pretty well how I rate them. The first game was good, the second game was a blast and fun to play, and the third one was an absolute train wreck. Although, strangely enough, on the Genesis, I enjoyed that train wreck, which I'll probably be talking about in an episode down the road in that game specifically for the Sega Genesis. But that's pretty well it for my memories of Double Dragon. Kind of a short but sweet one this go around. Did I enjoy the game? Yeah. Do I recommend you go and play it? Sure, absolutely. But it's definitely not the best of the series. Before we wrap up, I'm going to do my live eBay bit real quick. We're going to type in the game and see how much you can get that original game for. And again, if you want to play it, no problem. 10, 15 bucks still. It's not overpriced at all. I think that getting the NES version, though, is the only way you can play it. I don't think the NES version specifically has been re-released. I'm pretty sure the arcade version has through .mu. I believe they released Double Dragon Trilogy, where they did the arcade versions of all three games. But the NES version, I think, is still only there on the NES. But that's pretty well going to be it for this episode. Let's listen to another track from the game before we go over our outro. As always, thank you for taking time out of your day to listen to another episode of Afterglow. I hope you guys appreciate me going over all of these childhood memories and sometimes more modern memories of all these games I've played. Hopefully you've maybe rediscovered or newly discovered some classics that you didn't know about before. If you're looking for more podcast goodness, be sure to check out our show notes page. There is a link tree down there, and in that link tree, you'll find links to many other podcasts, all friends of the show to check out and listen to, which they'll be talking to you here in a little bit, because I enjoy having ads from all of them. That way, any listeners of my show can also check out their stuff, because there's some great stuff out there if you're into any kind of podcast. Most of them are retro gaming, but there's a few other things down in there as well to check out that might catch your interest. If you're interested in supporting Afterglow, of course, the main way to support us is to just interact a little bit. Send a message. If you're watching on YouTube, leave a comment, leave a like. If you want, there is a Patreon. I don't push the Patreon that hard, but if you want to donate, there is a $1 a month tier, and in that $1 a month tier, you will get a shout out at the end of every episode. If you're really crazy, there's also a merch store, and in there you can get an Afterglow t-shirt, sticker, magnet, whatever. I actually need to buy one of my own shirts, which, you know, you'd think I'd be advertising my own show, but hey, I'm not that good at this sort of thing. If you've listened to me for over 100 episodes, you know that by now, right? But thanks for listening, and here come those friends of the show.
For more than 15 years, Retro Gaming Roundup has been the centre of your retro gaming universe, with top 10s, interviews, game reviews, news, and much more from all over the globe. Be sure to tune in every month for a new dose of Retro Gaming Roundup. That's RetroGamingRoundup.com.
Hey, this is Toby, one half of the Secret Levels podcast. We're a podcast that goes over old retro games. We go over the history, the story, the gameplay, some fun facts. We even rage a little bit. And then we go and give it a nice 1 to 10 rating to let you know if it's still worth playing. We have over 200 reviews for games on the NES, the Super Nintendo, Sega Genesis, and many other consoles. You can find us on all the major podcasting apps, such as Apple Podcasts and Spotify, and you can follow us on social media at Secret Levels Pod. Game over, folks.
Hello and welcome to the Reviews Brothers. It's me, Martin, and you can join me on YouTube, where I have hundreds of videos covering a huge range of video game topics. I've got top 10s, hidden gems, console-focused A to Zs, as well as dedicated videos to topics like Doom mods, 3D platform games, ninja games, pirate games, and more. I cover all systems from Commodore 64 right up to modern consoles. Nothing gaming is off the table. So be sure to search for the Reviews Brothers on YouTube, as well as on Instagram and TikTok for hundreds of retro and modern video game reviews.
Afterglow listeners, it's me, Keith Gasper, coming at you from the #1 retro gaming podcast, the Main Quest Podcast. Come hang out as a guest and I play and discuss a game from the backlog of my childhood. We're talking about our history and the history of the game, and if it's worth checking out today. We're talking about games from the NES, the Sega Genesis, TurboGrafx, Game Boy, and much more. And that's just on the main feed. If you enjoy what you're hearing on Afterglow, you're going to enjoy the Main Quest, and I'm happy to have you. Find the Main Quest on Apple Podcasts, Good Pods, Spotify, and wherever great podcasts are downloaded.
Hello, my name is Aaron. I'm one half of Super Pod Saga, a topical variety video game podcast fueled entirely by nostalgia and unleaded gasoline. Super Pod Saga, we discuss a different video game topic each and every week. We have new episodes every single Monday covering a different video game topic. More than anything, we want to entertain our listeners and make you feel like you're one of the boys, like you're hanging out at a campfire with some of your best zany, caffeine-powered buddies, movies, and just talking about your favorite games and all that stuff, stop on down to Super Pod Saga. It's on every podcatcher there is. If it's not, let me know and we'll get on it. But again, Super Pod Saga, stop on by.